All right, good morning, Packers fans. So Bryant and I are live this morning just to have a discussion about a few things that are coming up this morning, whether it be the injury report or what's going on with that. Um, and then we're just going to talk about a couple last minute things before the game starts. The big news being that the Packers are going to be without Allen Lazard, David Bakhtiari, and Elton Jenkins. Allen Lazard was kind of an expected one. Elton Jenkins, I would say, is also what I would have expected to be the case, given the fact that he got injured later in the year last year. And then David Bakhtiari was a little bit of a surprising one. And then you add in the fact that there's reports that David Bakhtiari is already likely out for next week against Chicago as well. So we want to talk about that, and then just some of the sentiment going around about David Bakhtiari and his injury. So I mean, we could start with Allen Lazard. We've known that he was doubtful since Thursday. He got stepped on in practice last week, but he was still off to the sides running sprints, so I don't think there's any concern that there's breaks or a really bad sprain or anything like that. So it's a little too soon to know, but I would think Lazard is going to play next week, and I would feel pretty much the same about Elton Jenkins. He said that he wanted to play, but obviously the team is going to take a cautious approach because you play a guy in week 1, he gets hurt, and then you're screwed for weeks 2 through 18. But if you hold a guy out for week 1, make sure he's 100%, then you're potentially better off for weeks 2 through 18. So what was your initial thoughts when you saw that those three were going to be out for the Packers this morning?
So I expected Lazard, and we talked about that on Friday. But it was a little bit of a gun punch. I wake up and the first thing I see is that Jenkins and Bakhtiari are both out. I was hoping that at least one of them would go because the Vikings do have a formidable pass rush. So it does swing the game a little bit for me of how comfortable I feel going into it. I just think the Packers will have to do a lot better job running the ball. But Josh Nijman has a lot of experience over there at left tackle. The right side is what scares me because Newman did not look great in preseason, and then you have Hansen on top of that. So I think they're going to have to push a lot of help to the right side. I think you're going to see Big Dog on that side quite a bit, and you're going to. Especially on play actions like with A.J. Dillon or something, you're probably going to see them cracking those.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about the injury report, one guy who is completely off the injury report is Robert Tonyan.
Yeah.
So he's playing. He wasn't even questionable coming in today. He wasn't limited in practice during the week. So Robert Tonyan is a full go. I'm not sure if that affects your thoughts at all on how the offensive line is going to play.
So Tonyan isn't. He's a good blocker too, so I think he'll be in there. So I think we're going to see a lot more quick passes. I think that we'll have to have play a quicker game. Vikings will eventually catch on to that, but I think this will be a type of game that now with the two pass rushers out, normally these games have been shootouts. I don't know that that's going to happen today. I don't know that we want to try to get into a shootout right now because we don't want to be Aaron Rodgers be holding the ball for 3 or 4 seconds because although they might hold them up, they're going to get home some of the time. So I did go back and look at, the game after Elton Jenkins got hurt, the December game, but that's not a good sample size because Griffin didn't play that game and they didn't have Z. So we gave up 0 sacks in that game and it was at home. So there's not much to go off of, but I think we can hold up. I think if, we limit it to like 3 sacks or something like that, I think we have a chance to, be fine. It sucks that they're hurt, but at the same time, we're in this for the long haul, right?
Right.
Like we talked about, we kind of always, I'm not like excusing a loss or anything this week if that happens. And I'm not saying it's going to happen. There's ways we can win this game with them being out. I'm saying that we chalk this up to a split a lot of time, and I'd much rather have Jenkins and Bakhtiari moving into playoffs and try to rush them, play on turf. I don't know if that really does have much of an impact or not, but I would rather not rush them this week. If they need another couple weeks, everyone's freaking out about the fact that they came off PUB. Well, if we would have put him on Bakhtiari on PUB, I mean, he wouldn't be able to practice. We needed him to practice. So people, upset that he's not playing. He should have just went on PUB. Like you were saying before we came live, if he plays week 3 or even week 4, that's 1 game earlier than we would have got him. Plus he's getting the practice time.
Right. So the other thing too, you were talking about play action. I think Robert Tonyan also factors into that. And then you brought up the fact that even without Bakhtiari and Jenkins, there's ways that we can still win this game. Like, I don't want to get it twisted either, that there's ways that even if those two played healthy, that there's still ways the Packers could lose this game. We talked about it on Friday that none of the four of us that were on the Friday show or when we did our preseason shows, that none of us predicted the Packers to go 17-0. So we want to keep it real in that aspect too, that even if the Packers were fully healthy on the offensive line, there's still ways Packers could lose this game. Minnesota has a very good offense. The Packers have a very good defense, albeit with a couple question marks, be Quay Walker and how the defensive line is going to shake out. Those questions are going to start to get answered today. But like Bryant said, there's still ways the Packers can win this game. I think we talked about X factors on Friday. I think as far as X factors go, with those two tackles out, I think an X factor you could throw in there is Josiah DeGuara.
Yep.
So I think it's very possible that we get some Josiah DeGuara at fullback today, just to have extra guys in the backfield, whether it be early in the game, just to find out how the right side of the line is going to do and find out if Josh Nijman, who has been taking a lot of first team reps at left tackle, is going to be handling things on his own, if he's going to be able to, control one-on-ones, or if they'll need to keep some extra guys in the backfield. And I agree with you that, this might be a game where the Packers try to slow down the pace. They have the running backs to do so. They can alternate guys. They can put them both on the field at the same time, use them in the play action game as well. I think it's also very, very likely that you will see Rodgers taking some deep shots to Christian Watson just to take some deep shots. Just to try to back the Vikings defense up, even if it's just a step or two, to make them know that Rodgers is still thinking about that. Maybe he hits on one. I mean, we saw last year that Rodgers hit MVS for a 75-yard touchdown late in the fourth quarter. It's totally within the realm of possibility that Rodgers hits a deep ball to Christian Watson, and that kind of backs the defense up just a little bit, just enough to give breathing room for guys like Randall Cobb and Romeo Doubs and Sammy Watkins to be able to run those quick timing routes, those slant routes, those quick out routes, those back shoulder routes. It really only takes one or two of those big over-the-top plays for the Vikings defense to be like, oh, okay, we got to back off a little bit. And then you're looking at one-on-ones and potentially, helping blocks by tight ends and the running backs, and the Packers offense is totally fine. So It's really just going to come out to execution and potentially hitting on a couple of big plays is the way that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, and we got to remember we have a defense that can wreck the game too, right? So if our defense, it's a tough environment to play in. They have very talented. We've talked about Justin Jefferson's going to get his. If we can slow down Dalvin Cook, we can limit Thielen, and we just make it Jefferson where we have Jaw in big stress spots and safety over the top.
Yep.
I think no matter what, our defense should at least keep this game close. So we'll see what kind of plan they have for our defense. It's tough because we haven't seen that offense a lot, but obviously it's a brand new offense, brand new defensive scheme too. But we kind of have an idea what their offensive scheme is. I mean, the guy used to coach for us, right? So we'll see how it goes. I think our defense, can step up. They've done this before. They kept that Kansas City game close when we were starting Jordan Love. They've kept other games close. So I think if they can come out
against the 49ers kept close.
They're itching to hit somebody. Jaw has got a chip on his shoulder now because he wasn't named captain. So he's going to be out there trying to prove something. He might come out with a little rust. We'll see what happens. I mean, it wasn't a knee or anything. It's just shoulder. Right. But I mean, seeing a top 3 wide receiver in the league the first week after you didn't play it last half or a majority of last year will be a little bit tough, but I think he'll be fine. So we'll see what happens. I think our defense will need to keep it close. Hopefully Rashawn Gary can wreak some havoc. If we could win in the turnover battle, that would go huge to help our offense get a few more chances. Be coming into this game with thinking at least one of them start, I would say it's probably like 55-45 in the favor of the Packers. With them both out, it probably swings the other way, but it's still, in the end of it, to me, it's still a coin flip. And if you're telling me we have a coin flip chance to win a game in Minnesota with 2 tackles out, this team is pretty good. So we'll see. These 2 teams are going to be playoff teams. So in my opinion, we'll see both of these teams in the playoffs. So should be a good measuring stick. We'll, don't overreact or underreact. Like if we somehow blow them out, don't be like, oh my God, we're winning the Super Bowl right away. It's week 1. Just take a step back, take a deep breath, no matter what way it goes. We've seen the Packers lose week 1, 2 out of 3 times under Matt LaFleur, and they finished 13-3. Right. So our 13-4 last year. But.
Right. Yeah. And that's, you brought up a good point too, that, we don't need to like you said, overreact or underreact. We don't need to freak out if the Packers lose. We saw the Packers lose 38-3 last year in week 1. And then we saw the Packers against the Buccaneers lose 38-10. Like, we've seen rough games from the Packers that ultimately end up in still solid seasons. I agree with you that we're looking at 2 playoff teams. I think the Packers are going to win the division, and I think the Vikings are going to get in a wild card team around 10 wins. Regardless of who was playing or who wasn't, outside of maybe, like an Aaron Rodgers or something like that, or if Justin Jefferson wasn't going to play, this is going to be a close game no matter what. We all 4 of us picked the game within to be 4 points. Jake picked a 4-point win, and then 3 of us all picked the game to end within a field goal. So it's probably going to be a sweaty game. It's going to be a game where we got to sweat it out, maybe some stress, but either way, it's not going to be something that makes or breaks a season. Obviously, as we've seen. And yeah, like Isaac said, it could be coming down to a field goal. It could just end up being that this game ends up being won by the team that has the ball last.
Yep. I feel comfortable if that's Aaron. I mean, I know we don't have Devonta to go to, but he's made things happen with people. I mean, we still have Randall Cobb, safety blanket. Watkins, I guess, has been playing well. He's going to have Robert Tonyan, he trusts a lot.
Yep.
You have AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones who both can catch the ball. So I do think we'll want to slow it down. Where I was thinking before, I think me and you both thought we're kind of leaning shootout before. Now I think the Packers would want this game to be like one of those, 17-20, 20-23 or
24-21 type game, something like that. Yeah, and that's going to come down to the defense too. If the defense can get into a situation where say Minnesota starts a series on a touchback and they're coming out at the 25-yard line, if the Packers can get it to a point where they can pin Minnesota back really far and win the field position battle, I think that's also something that could really come into play as far as winning a game, especially if it ends up being a low scoring one.
Yeah. And we definitely can't have any major special teams blunders, which is, I know there's a lot to say for how they've performed, but we added Rudy Ford, who hasn't played a snap for special teams, but if you watch his gunning tape, it's pretty nasty. Dalvin Levitt's back in the picture. He's healthy playing, and it sounds like there's like Isaiah McDuffie and some other people that weren't playing a lot of special team snaps are going to be on special teams. I think I even seen that Eric Stokes tweeted special teams like one time. So I don't know if they're gonna have him gun or what they would have him do on.
I would certainly see it in the realm of possibility that either one of Eric Stokes or Rasul Douglas plays some special teams.
And the also we plenty fast. So
exactly, we talked about it actually during one of the preseason shows that a lot of the guys that are going to be playing special teams are playing starting roles in the preseason. That's why they're not playing special teams in the preseason games. So there was a lot of concern that the special teams hadn't improved at all in the preseason. Now we're really going to see what the first team special teams is going to look like. I think another guy to throw in there is maybe Shamar Jean Charles. He actually, I think, twice forced fumbles on some kick returns last year. I know it was one for sure. I think he had 2 forced fumbles on some kick returns. So I think, the special teams, we're going to get our first look at it as far as a regular season game is concerned. I will say I was encouraged actually by the punting of Pat O'Donnell in that last preseason game. I'm not sure if you agree with me on that.
No, 100%. He's got to be careful. And maybe he was out-kicking the coverage of people that are no longer on the team.
Right.
So the thing we have to be worried about with the Vikings is they have a really good kick returner, and they have a Jalen Reagor. The one thing he returned a punt for a touchdown against us, right? So when he was with Philly. So if hopefully he feels more comfortable letting it boom because he feels better about like Rudy Ford and Dallin Levitt getting down there and making the tackle. Or even if Eric Stokes, like I said, runs with, 4, what do you run like 4.29 or something crazy, didn't he?
4.26, something like that.
Yeah, something crazy. So he might feel better and like let it, fly on that. Or there's going to be kick returns because Crosby, I don't know that he can even get it to the end zone at this point or deep enough. So I would like to see them do more pop-up kicks where, they're, it's more in the air and maybe it comes down at the 5-yard line and it gives our defenders more chance to get down there, which is becoming more popular in the NFL. So look out for that. I have a feeling they're going to implement the college rule where you can call a fair catch at anywhere and it'll go out to the 25. Yeah. That's just a weird thing that I think the NFL will do because they're trying to eliminate them, to be honest. So the fact that they're actually on the rise, the returns are on the rise. But today, that's something we have to worry about because Crosby's not, 10 years ago where he was kicking it middle of the end zone and it was leading. People are doing touchbacks. So I think we'll see a lot of returns. And They have a really good kick return, so we'll see. The special teams just needs to hold their own and not let them win the field battle just from special teams and back our defense up. And I think our defense will keep us in this game the entire game.
Right. Yeah, and the special teams too is another thing, outside of even just the wins and the loss. The special teams group is another thing where it's like, don't freak out, overreact in one direction or the other. We're going to be in a 1-game sample size after today. The sample size is going to be very, very small on whether the special teams is successful or unsuccessful, whether the Packers win or lose. We are going to have a 1-game sample size for 2022. It's going to be too soon to freak out and say, well, the Rich Bisaccia hiring was a failure because the Packers allowed a kick return touchdown. Something like that. Like, it's 1 game. We got to take it 1 game at a time. And, we're going to do segments during the show of what can the Packers improve and how can they improve those things. We're going to probably need at least 2 or 3 weeks before we start to get a feel of what those things are. Simon asked, who do you think they're going to roll out to start on the offensive line? I think it's pretty much guaranteed that it's going to be Nyman, left tackle, Runyon at left guard, Myers at center. The right guard, right tackle, I think is a little more up for interpretation. I'm not sure who you think is going to be at right guard and right tackle.
I think Simon has it on the money right now, but if they struggle, I would not hate to see them put Zach Tom on the field because he's showing us that he can play. Now, the thing is, Hansen is probably going to stay at guard, so it would be Zach Tom probably going in for Newman. Our Newman would then, if Hansen is struggling, kick into guard. So we'll see. I think everyone's freaking out. Well, the offensive line, the starters had no time. I've seen someone comment that the starters had no time in the preseason. Guess what? This was the starting line all 3 games this preseason, and it's going to be the starting line the first game of the regular season. So they do have some playing time together. The running, and they have tape on them. So although Aaron wasn't in there with them, AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones weren't in there with them, they do have starting time together. So, Hansen, Myers, and Newman on that right side should kind of know what each other are doing. And like I said, if they really start to struggle, I hope that the Packers pull the ripcord and put Tom in there and let the rookie see what he can do. Because what's the harm in that at that point?
Right.
If they're getting smoked, put them in.
And I want to bring this up too, is to the point of, these guys don't have any time together. After the last week of preseason, they ran game situations in practice a lot. And if you listen to Aaron Rodgers talk about practice that week, that's like the best I've ever heard him talk about practices as far back as I can remember. He talked about that was his favorite week of practice. He said those were the best practices they've had, that they were doing those game situations. So if it's those 5 running in those game situations, Rodgers does have some experience with them. It's not like he's meeting these guys for the first time today.
Yep. So I feel that makes me feel comfortable too. And I think, like I said, if AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones can get going, guess what? Z is probably going to be trying to line up over on that right side. Run at him. Run at Zadarius Smith. And make the linebackers make a play, because Zadarius Smith is going to want to kill Aaron Rodgers.
Right, take advantage of his aggression.
Some crazy weird vendetta against Green Bay right now. So take advantage of his aggression, run to that side, throw screens to that side early and often, and make him hesitate a little bit. They have to get Hunter and Z to hesitate a little bit. When they know it's 100% a pass play, they're gonna cause some disruption. It's just a matter of how quick someone like Randall Cobb or Robert Tonyan can get open. And actually, we've seen if Aaron Rodgers is comfortable with Romeo Dobbs, we've seen it in preseason where he gets open fast. He has to catch the ball, but he can beat people off the line, because there were some questions about the speed coming out. But how often do we see him behind his defender in preseason? Quite often. So we just need someone that can win quickly.
Simon said he thinks Hansen is the odd man out if they start Tom at right tackle, kick Newman inside. I think that's probably the case. I mean, Newman played a lot at right guard last season, so that's totally within the realm of possibility. I want you to address Isaac's comment. He said he wants to see Wyatt make an impact. He thinks it'll translate well for Kenny Clark. I know we talked about this a little bit on Friday night, but what are you thinking about with Devontae Wyatt?
I can't wait to see that yet. Or to Isaac, but I don't think that's going to be this week. I think Wyatt needs to develop a little bit more, and they've kind of talked about it. And Wyatt's talked about that. He needs to, maybe he's the type of player that you put him in a game environment and he just plays better than you practice. I just don't know that he'll see more than like 15 snaps today. a handful of snaps because Jaron Reed has been wrecking house in practice and preseason preparation. Slayton has taken a step forward. We know what Dean Lowry can do, and then you have Kenny Clark, obviously. So hopefully Wyatt will see on the field a little bit, and hopefully people are like, okay, he's showing up, and like I said, maybe he makes some plays in the game. We're like, okay, he plays better than he practices. Because I will say in the preseason games, there's several times I've seen him chasing after quarterback and getting the quarterback move. So we'll see. Hopefully he gets a handful and we get a little glimpse of what he can do. But if you're really looking for a rookie defender to make an impact today, especially, I'm thinking that's going to be Quay Walker, sideline to sideline.
I think as far as the defensive line is concerned, I think Wyatt is probably 5th on the depth chart at that spot. So I think you're going to start Lowry, Kenny, and I think Jaron Reed is going to start at the other defensive end position. And then, like you said, I think Slayton is going to be the 4th guy in there, and then Wyatt would be the 5th guy in there. What I would say is potentially within the realm of possibility with Wyatt is you put him in on, say, a 3rd and long or a 2nd and long, and you say, go give 175% of your effort on this play.
Yep.
And try to get to the quarterback. We're only going to rush 3. We're only going to rush 4. Try to see if you can get him to kind of concentrate some of his energy. And like you said, if he's playing limited snaps, just say, hey, try to put 4 plays of energy into this one play and see if you can go make something happen in a limited amount of plays. We'll see what happens with Wyatt. I agree. As far as rookies are concerned, that Quay Walker is going to be the most immediate impact player. And I said it with Watson and Dobbs. This was before Lazard was ruled out, but I think we need to give those two a couple weeks before we start expecting them to make 4, 5, 6 plus catches in a game. But Devontae Wyatt, I'm thinking he's probably going to need at least a couple weeks, but he'll get rotated in. That was one of the things we talked about, for matchups that we were looking forward to on Friday, is seeing what the defensive line rotation actually looks like. So we'll see what happens with those guys. Robert said lots of rookies playing today. So
yeah, and that's a good thing and a bad thing, right? It is good that we're going to see them, but if you're excited about a lot of rookies playing, you have to be ready for mistakes and maybe
temper some expectations.
Exactly, and maybe we don't pull it out. But if you can see and they show us something, if they show us like, okay, this is something that can help us later, and we didn't pull out this game. There's still 16 more games to go. We're still going to be a playoff team. If they can show us, hey, these kids can help, or these guys can help us down the stretch, I'll feel great coming out of today. Like you said, we can't expect them to have 5 or 6 catches. Unfortunately, if we're going to win today, I think one of them is going to have to really show out, or even just contribute, like Watson hitting a deep play, and then maybe Dubs making a couple, good contested catches or something like that. I don't think that's end all be all that they have to have a huge game for us to win, because Sammy Watkins, week 1, Sammy Watkins could show up and make a splash. Randall Cobb was having a nice season. Everyone's sleeping on him. Robert Tonyan seems like he really wants to return to what he did 2 years ago. So I think we have the best running back tandem, in my opinion, in the NFC North. So I think we have the weapons and the tools and the offensive minds that can pull us out today. I just think our defense is really going to need to keep us in this game, because we're going to have to do a lot of quick plays. Hopefully we have a chance to take some of those shots. If the running game gets going, then that play action is going to work. So yeah, absolutely. And I think go ahead.
I was just going to say, of all the guys you're talking about, the guy we can't lose in the translation is Sammy Watkins. All off season we've been talking about it. We're like, if Sammy Watkins is healthy, he can do this, this, and this. It's week 1. Sammy Watkins is healthy today. So if we're talking a 1 game at a time approach, Sammy Watkins is healthy today. So we have a healthy Sammy Watkins today. So we'll see what we can do with him too.
And they don't have the cornerbacks. They don't have a cornerback that I'm
really not concerned about anybody in their secondary outside of Harrison Smith.
Although we might not have someone like Devontae Adams that can get open instantly, they don't have someone that can shut someone down instantly either. So I think, it'll be a little bit of chess match, just making sure we don't, let them get to Aaron Rodgers too early and too often. Now with back to the Wyatt thing, I think if we can get him on the field with Jaron Reed and Kenny Clark on a pass rush situation, and they can, what's going to happen is they're going to collapse that. Those are 3 monsters, right? They're going to collapse it inside of the line, and it's either going to quickly sack Kirk Cousins, or he's going to have to flush out to where Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary are there. So
Right.
that's where I'm talking about where the defense can wreck this game. If they start collapsing the inside of the interior linemen and forcing Cousins to move left or right, they're going to run into some problems.
Right. That's where I'm saying you throw Wyatt in there on a second long or third and long, an obvious passing situation, and that's where he can maybe make an impact. I think this is a good thing to close with is Isaac's comment asking, are we worried about Bakhtiari, even if we're expecting him to be out next week? So I want to get your opinion on this guy. I know we've talked about it ad nauseum, but the number of comments that I have seen this morning about just cutting Bakhtiari, moving on from him, I think he's done, all this. He literally never plays, all that type of comments. Like, what are your thoughts on that narrative with David Bakhtiari?
So cutting him, trading him, that's just fodder. It's just dumb to me. Obviously, I want him to play. Obviously, I wish Green Bay would tell us what's going on a little bit more, but they kind of have told us what's going on a little bit without directly telling us, look, Dennis Kelly got cut. There's other people that have become available. If they were worried that Bakhtiari had a setback, maybe it happened this week and we will see something this early this next week, that they're already saying, well, don't expect him to play next week either. But if they're just really just giving him practice time and that's why he's not on the pub, if they were concerned long term, at this point, they would have to sign somebody. They can't just, he might possibly be coming back. Unless they really like Zach Tom and they know Jenkins is going to be back. But for me, they haven't signed anyone to replace him like a Dennis Kelly or a veteran like that, like Jared Valdir a few years ago. They haven't made that move. So I feel like they still feel comfortable and confident in the fact that he'll be back to play.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up to see if I saw a list of Packers inactives. I don't remember if it was Andy Herman that posted it. That there were
the actual inactives would be up yet, but
yeah, I think it has to be like 3 hours before game time or something like that. But I saw a couple people suggesting that that Rasheed Walker wasn't on the actives list, so they're not calling up extra offensive linemen, which I think
inactives come out an hour and a half before game time. Okay. So yeah.
I think we're still looking at pretty much 6 offensive linemen for 5 spots. And it's going to be just on that right side that those things are going to be question marks. But when it comes down to cutting, quote unquote, cutting Bakhtiari, it's not going to happen. There's essentially no reason to do it because of what's invested in him. And as far as the make him play to earn his contract, listen, contracts are more based off of previous performance than they are about future performance.
Yep.
That's kind of how professional sports contracts work. You pay guys based on what they've done, not what you think they're going to do.
They're not paid on potential. It's what they've shown out.
That's why there's, when you got guys on rookie contracts that way outperform their rookie contracts, that's why they get massive ones because they've outperformed their contract. That's why they get paid.
Yeah. And people saying make him play to get paid. Guess what? He's already paid. That's why cutting him, trading him, it does nothing for us. Yeah. There's very little benefit to Green Bay right now of cutting. There is potential out where they still eat $22 million in cap next year, but they save $17 million. So possibly, but if he comes back like we talked about and he plays at 90% or 80% even, he's still a very, very good addition to this team. I know it sucks. It's hard to continue to be patient. You got to understand that David Bakhtiari wants to play. He's talked about it. He also had 2 surgeries. He had 3 surgeries totals because he had the setbacks. So it's not like it was a normal injury. Yeah, it's unfortunate this doesn't happen very often. And it's unfortunate that this is, one of the best left tackle or number 2 in the league when it happened. So people want him to be back, and he just signed a $23 million a year contract at that point or whatever it was. But like I said, if we can, and you have said, if we can get him back even week 3 or week 4, it's still a win. He's still got practice time, and we still have him for the back half of the season. The Packers were 13-4 last year without David Bakhtiari and our big chunk of the season without Elgin Jenkins. We're going to win games. It might not happen today because Minnesota, we could have had them both and still lose this game because this is a very tough game. Yeah. Right. That everyone wants to crap on the Vikings all the time. They are a very good team. We'll see what happens this week with the new coaching staff, but they're a very good team. So just take a deep breath, let what happens, and enjoy the fact that football is back on.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing is let's have some fun knowing that the NFL is back. That's the thing is, even if we're Packers fans or Vikings fans, at the end of the day, we're NFL fans. So we still got something in common there. And, we're going to have a potential clash today of what could be a top 5 defense and what could be, in my opinion, possibly a top 5 offense for Minnesota. So
there's a chance we see them 2 more times after this game this year. We'll have our
very
chance in
possible.
Green Bay, and who knows, hopefully 2 more games in Green Bay.
Yeah.
See what happens.
So yeah, I mean, is there anything else you wanted to throw out about today's game?
Nope. Hopefully both teams come out healthy. It's a good game, close game. I mean, there's going to be trash talk on both sides. Embrace it. Be realistic with it, I guess, at least. But we know that won't happen. But just try to enjoy the game and the entirety of football.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back next weekend. Probably not on Friday night, possibly next Sunday morning. It's a little spoiler alert for some of the news that we're going to have potentially for the show tomorrow coming out. But we'll be excited to watch the football games being back today. So we will see you guys next weekend.
Go Pack, go.